is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
The Jewish people and the Jewish state will be forever grateful.
Department of Justice officials pouring over 10,000 text messages between Strzok and his FBI lawyer girlfriend.
It makes it really difficult for those of us who would like to defend the integrity of former prosecutors and heads of the FBI.
30 Democratic senators demanded that Senator Al Franken of Minnesota resign.
I do not feel that he should continue to serve.
Senator Franken's conduct was wrong. He has admitted to it and should resign from the Senate.
Fire departments across Southern California are on very, very high alert.
Alternate juror speaking out days after an illegal immigrant is found not guilty in the death of Kate Steinle.
We were told at the beginning of the trial that immigration was not at issue in this trial.
3, 2, 1.
All right, live from Studio F as in Fox and Friends. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Brian's off today, and in his place we got Pete Hegseth.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here.
Sorry replacement, but I'll do what I can.
You're doing a great job.
Great. You are. It's Thursday. We're downhill to the weekend. So wait, are you working this weekend too?
I am. I'm working tomorrow too, and this weekend.
So filled in for you yesterday.
Thank you,
Brian, today and tomorrow.
Today is your Thursday. It's my Tuesday.
That's right.
And for all of America, it's their Thursday too.
What's my Monday again? Because I took yesterday off.
I don't know.
So I'm just starting again. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this December 7th,
That's right.
2017.
Pearl Harbor Day,
right.
which we do honor, we do recognize, we've talked about on this program. I mean, it's like 9/11 of our generation, we'll never forget. Imagine the World War II generation. We're losing them too fast, but that moment changed history forever.
The greatest generation.
And the story we did in the last half hour about the fact that somebody who was there and saved so many lives, finally being recognized after seeing a story on Fox by the Navy today.
Yeah. Well, all eyes now are on Senator Al Franken. There's speculation he's going to definitely have an announcement today. There's speculation he might resign.
That's right. It comes as Democrats turn on him, demanding that he step down.
Griff Jenkins live in our nation's capital with what we know about Al Franken. Griff?
Good morning, guys. Well, we know there's new sexual misconduct allegations. A seventh woman accusing Franken of trying to forcibly kiss her. An eighth saying he groped her posing for a photo. And if he does resign today, it will be the Democratic women of the Senate that forced him out in the tidal wave that began with New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
I do not feel that he should continue to serve. When we start having to talk about the differences between sexual assault and sexual harassment and unwanted groping, you are having the wrong conversation.
By the end of the day, 14 female Democratic senators were calling on him to resign, with his fellow Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar stopping short of calling for his resignation, but saying she was confident he will make the right decision. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer also joining the chorus of calls, saying he considers Franken a friend but should resign immediately. Some have questioned the timing of this Democratic outrage as Monica Crowley weighed in last night on Hannity.
It's politics, but it's also very strategic because they're teeing this up for 2018 and then 2020. They want to say, look, we took care of all of our perverts. We got rid of all of them. Oh, the Republicans still have a bunch of perverts. We're also going to run a woman.
Now, Franken's office has downplayed rumors of a resignation, but said the senator plans to make an announcement today. We're told it could possibly be on the Senate floor. We'll see what happens, guys.
We will indeed. All right, Griff Jenkins down on Capitol Hill. We thank you very much. Meanwhile, the President of the United States, I believe in the 1 o'clock hour yesterday, made the announcement.
He did it.
You know what? He was following through on a campaign pledge. He said, if you make me President of the United States, I will keep my promise. And after many years, the United States will recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and we will move our embassy there as soon as we can find the spot to put it.
We talked about history, Pearl Harbor. It felt like watching that announcement yesterday, you were watching history. And immediately after he made the announcement that we will recognize Israel as the eternal capital of Jerusalem as the eternal capital of Israel, you saw the projection of the American flag and the Israeli flag on the old city, which, having been there, it's amazing to think about. Bibi Netanyahu came out right away after being quiet for a couple of days saying this is an amazing shift. It is a historic moment. U.S. is always...
That's what you're talking about right there.
If you've never been to Jerusalem, the old city walls, they surround the old city of Jerusalem, the Western Wall, all the things that are so significant for different faiths, extremely significant.
Right. Well, let's go to Jerusalem right now because there are protests. There are live protests because there are so many people who are upset. Many international leaders, the Pope, unhappy with the President of the United States that he would announce this. And in fact, his critics say he has ruined the Mideast peace process, even though there really isn't much of a peace process.
Yes, that's
right.
Well,
last number of years.
Well, within minutes of that announcement, the U.S. embassies in Turkey and Jordan and Germany and Britain, they all issued security alerts saying that Americans need to be cautious because they were worried about the reaction. They were worried about the protests. Nikki Haley says we shouldn't live in fear. She said, actually, this is nothing more than just a recognition of reality because Jerusalem there, Israelis believe that Jerusalem is their capital already.
This is a completely predictable reaction of how the left and the international intelligentsia will react. Remember, Barack Obama passed a resolution declaring the Western Wall occupied territory, Eastern Jerusalem occupied territory. So this is a dispute that is not going to be solved at this moment, but at least the U.S. has come down squarely on the side of an ally in Israel.
Eric Erickson was on with us just about an hour ago, and he said this promise kept is what others in Washington have said out loud, but never did anything about. Watch.
He's actually doing what all the politicians in Washington say they want to do when they know they don't have to. He's taken them at their word. I mean, just like he took Republicans at their word that they wanted to repeal Obamacare when they probably really didn't. He's moving the capital, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which, by the way, it already is. He's just recognizing reality. When every major politician, every presidential candidate, both parties of Congress in their platform documents, and a bipartisan resolution of Congress all declared that we should do exactly what he did. And now that he's done it, they're all like, oh gosh, he can't do that.
And you know, the protests we just showed, you know who's protesting? The Islamists who don't like this. And if the right people are protesting, then maybe you did the right thing.
The Palestinians are saying you can't make Jerusalem the eternal capital because it's our eternal capital. Yeah. So we will keep you posted on that. Except in the meantime, here in...
except that it isn't.
Except that it isn't. Yeah. But just read the history books. But anyway.
Well, not only that, but our own U.S. Congress back in 1995 passed the Jerusalem Embassy Act where we were supposed to move it. But every president has kicked the can down the road until now.
Well, it's a done deal. The president has declared the capital, and now we're moving on to the FBI because there's a lot of information here. We're all asking, what did Mueller know? When did he know it? Because the ousted guy, the guy who got the demotion, Peter Strzok, he was that top FBI agent that was investigating Hillary, investigating Russia for a year. He apparently got that demotion to HR last July. So he stayed on those investigations for a year.
Yeah. And so Senator Ron Johnson of he's the chairman of the House Homeland, or rather the Senate Homeland Security Department. He wants to know, when did the Inspector General of the Department of Justice realize there were these text messages? When did Mr. Mueller realize there were text messages? Was this a violation of the Hatch Act? And have you looked into allegations that other senior management at the FBI were involved in something political?
That's right. It's all raising concerns about, you know, was this investigation legitimate from the beginning? Was it above board from the beginning? Do we have to investigate the investigators? We had the judge, Andrew Napolitano, on. How do you do that? You shouldn't have to do that because you want to assume your justice and intelligence departments are above that.
Yeah.
But we had a couple of, Representatives Gates and Meadows. They've been out there from the Freedom Caucus talking about this with some suggestions about where we may go next. Take a listen.
The Attorney General needs to do his job and end this witch hunt charade. We have a clear double standard, and you see it and the American people see it. Hillary Clinton's being investigated by her own fan club before the 2016 election, and now the only way you seem to get on Mueller's team is to demonstrate a hatred for Donald Trump. I think that the way Mueller built his team was finding people who had a bias against the president and doing everything he could to include them in this investigation.
The time is now for Jeff Sessions to do his job. And if he doesn't do his job, you know, he needs to step aside and let somebody else do it.
Hates his line. Hillary was investigated by her own fan club, he said.
Man, oh man. A great line, and it puts it crystallizes it. It really does.
Plus, every day there are more nuggets of information pointing that way. John Solomon at The Hill had a story where he quoted Ron DeSantis, congressman from Florida, who was told by a retired FBI supervisor that the FBI deputy director, Andrew McCabe, remember him? We talked about him last year. His wife ran for Congress down in Virginia, got $700,000 as a Democrat from Terry McAuliffe's PAC and stuff like that. Anyway, Andrew McCabe apparently told the FBI not to call Benghazi attack terrorism, even after the FBI findings were that al-Qaeda directed it and it was terrorism. Of course, that was before the election.
That's right.
So changing the language there, and then there were reports of the language being changed in the memo.
Nothing to see here. It's all just the FBI.
Just watering it down. The fan club.
The fan club, nothing to see here.
Ron DeSantis said this about that. What operational reason would there be to issue an edict to agents telling them, in the face of virtually conclusive evidence to the contrary, not to categorize the Benghazi attack as a result of terrorism by placing the interests of the Obama administration over the public's interest? The order is yet another data point highlighting the politicization of the FBI.
Because don't forget, when did the Benghazi attacks happen? Right before the 2012 elections.
Right.
It couldn't be terror because that would destroy their narrative.
Because we had al-Qaeda on the run. They were on their heels. That was the official story.
GM was alive and bin Laden was dead.
It just makes it seem like it happened. They all sit in a room in the White House underneath the ground and they're like, hold on. This can't happen before the election. We have to change the narrative. Just get through the election and then we'll reveal the truth.
The new FBI director is going to be on Capitol Hill today. I'm sure you're going to watch it live right here on the channel.
TV. All right, it's true. Jillian.
Hey.
Good morning.
And if you don't watch it live, you guys will talk about it tomorrow morning.
We have Al Franken's announcement today, and we have the FBI director being questioned today.
A lot of stuff happening today, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, we do have some headlines, starting with a Fox News alert. Near hurricane force winds expected to worsen the already devastating wildfires in Southern California today. The latest fire sparking near the Bel Air neighborhood of Los Angeles, forcing thousands to evacuate. Those winds fueling the blaze could reach up to 80 miles per hour in some places. On top of that, there is no rain in the forecast for the next week. Also breaking right now, it's just a matter of time. North Korea threatening war with the U.S. overnight. The chilling warning coming after a U.S. supersonic bomber flew over South Korea yesterday in a show of force as part of a large week-long military exercise. And we now know there were supposed to be 2 bombers in the air. The second one was grounded after experiencing a maintenance issue while taxiing for takeoff. Even the First Lady is a fan of fast food. Melania Trump and Second Lady Karen Pence spotted at the famous Texas burger chain Whataburger. No word on what they ordered for themselves, but we do know they treated the press pool to French fries. They were in Texas meeting with first responders and victims in the wake of Hurricane Harvey. That's a look at your headlines. I don't know. That made me a little hungry, guys.
Whataburger. Love that. They do have great fries.
They do. It's
Thanks,
good
Jillian.
food. You've never tried it, have you? We gotta buy some for you.
All fries are good fries.
All fries are good fries. Are there
sweet potato fries?
No, those are
I don't
so
like
good.
sweet potatoes.
What? Delicious.
They're okay.
I'm sorry.
When they're
I like regular
Put gravy on them.
the dipping sauce.
So good.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, America.
Thank you.
President Trump taking historic steps to fulfill a campaign promise, something his predecessors failed to keep, declaring Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
They failed to deliver. Today, I am delivering.
In his first interview, a Fox News exclusive, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, joins us live from Tel Aviv.
And remember when people were screaming at the sky over President Trump?
Yep.
Their new message for anyone daring to call them snowflakes? Snowflakes? Well, they find that offensive. That story coming up.
Welcome back. President Trump making good on a campaign promise. His predecessors, they all failed to keep, declaring Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and beginning the process to move our embassy there from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Here to react in an exclusive interview is the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mr. David Friedman. Ambassador, thank you so much for being with us. What is your reaction to this?
Well, Ainsley, I am really proud of the president. I thought this decision was bold. It was courageous. It was really smart. It was the right decision at the right time. And I think it reflects the popular will. You know, after all, I think only 6 months ago, the Senate recognized yet again the centrality of Jerusalem to the state of Israel by a vote of 90-0. You know, how often does the Senate agree unanimously on anything? And I also think it's the best path for peace. And so I think this puts the United States very much in the right place, and it puts the president very much on the right side of history.
Mr. Ambassador, how does this put us on the right path for peace when you see, we were just looking at live demonstrations in Jerusalem. Hamas is angry. They're encouraging people to do all sorts of stuff. How does the president's decision put you on the right path for peace?
So, you know, we're obviously concerned about the demonstrations, and the United States has taken all the appropriate precautions to protect American citizens abroad. But if you look at the peace process, if you will, over the past 25 years, the Palestinians have had a basket of issues that they've been attempting to advance during the course of the negotiations. Now, I'm not going to comment on the merits of those issues, but they've had their issues, and whatever issues they had yesterday, they still have today. The president made very clear he wasn't seeking to foreclose any of those issues. But here's what the president did want to foreclose. He wanted to foreclose the fantasy, and that's all it is, a fantasy, that somehow Jerusalem could be disconnected from the state of Israel. The president didn't want the Israelis to show up at the bargaining table and be forced to negotiate for something that they already had. That wasn't the right structure for negotiations. So, you know, look, we understand and expected the emotional reaction, the disappointment, but people who are demonstrating today did not listen carefully enough to the president's speech. The president remains committed to a peace process. He's committed to a good faith negotiation of all the final status issues. What he did yesterday was to simply speak the truth and to develop for the first time a foreign policy based upon reality rather than fantasy.
The president is a negotiator taking a new approach at a negotiation that hasn't gone well for a long time. Ambassador David Friedman, thank you for joining us. Certainly a historic day yesterday. Thank you.
All right, straight ahead on this Thursday.
From the battlefield of New Orleans all the way to the White House, Andrew Jackson lived a remarkable life, and Brian's going to join us to discuss his upcoming book.